Terraria is a game with a lot of items, 5,455 to be precise. From the Guide to Critter Companionship to the Terra Toilet, these are obtained from a multitude of different sources and are of varying usefulness. But which one is the rarest? Out of all the items, which one is the hardest to get? Well, in this video, I'm going to try and answer that. Before we go any further, however, let's define a few things first. Rarity is a bit vague. Would, say for instance, Luminite be considered rare, given it takes hours of gameplay before it can be obtained? For this video, I'm going to say no. The items we're talking about here are ones you wouldn't necessarily encounter in a normal playthrough, like a certain painting in a dungeon, or an uncommon fish during a blood moon. With this in mind, and to avoid confusion, I'm going to be considering how hard the item is to get after the game has been completed, with all the core endgame gear. Having a constant starting point should make comparisons of rarity easier. I'm also not going to be using secret seeds, and the new worlds and items they generate. Speaking of worlds, I won't be using programs like T-Edit to search maps and find items. This will make more sense later. Lastly, I will not be including any compound items, like the shell phone for example. This is about finding the single hardest item to get. Including compound items as well would just complicate it even more. Now, this video isn't just going to be me talking about stuff. Each item I mention as a contender for the rarest, I'm actually going to get, and see how long it takes me. I'll be playing on a journey mode character, which does allow certain luxuries, although this probably still isn't the smartest idea. Okay, so with all that said, let's quickly beat the game and get a few essentials. Nice, that should be all we need. Let's begin. So I've gone through every single item, and I've found 40 or so, which I think are among the hardest to get. I've then painstakingly got all these, and put them into 4 categories of increasing rarity. And finally, I've crowned an item I believe to be the rarest. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as I trawl through thousands of items in a decade-old 2D platformer game to see which is the hardest to get. The first item up is potentially a surprising one, the dirtiest block. This is a pet spawning item that spawns somewhere in the world disguised as a dirt block. In small worlds, about 3 will spawn, 6 in medium, and about 9 in a large world. On paper, this sounds like a bit of a nightmare to find, but there are actually a few little tricks we can use to make finding it much easier. Firstly, we need to note that the vast majority of dirt in the world is located in the surface layer, so we only really have to worry about the top, say, 5% of the world. And secondly, the main trick really, is unlike a standard dirt block, the dirtiest block won't be converted when a contaminator is used on it, and hence making it stand out. So using these 2 facts, we can simply run along the surface of the world, spraying a terraformer, and simply look out for any mud blocks which don't convert. Using these methods, I got my first dirtiest block in a relatively rapid 7 minutes. To make sure this wasn't a fluke, I got a few more, getting an average time to obtain one, with endgame gear at around 5 minutes, placing it comfortably as the easiest of the rare items I selected. This average, or expected time to get, is how I'll be ordering the rareness of the items. It's not an exact science by any means, there are far too many variables at play for that, and I'll make a few mistakes I'm sure, so feel free to point any improvements out. With that, let's move on to our next item, the Dread of the Red Sea. This painting stood out to me, as alongside the advanced combat techniques, it's the only catch from blood moon fishing to be listed as extremely rare. Quite how rare it was, I wasn't sure, but from testing with a maxed fishing loadout, I found I could pretty consistently get it within 2 to 3 blood moons. I made sure to kill any dread nautilus I fished up for their 15% drop rate of a bloody tier, so there was very little non-blood moon downtime. Averaging out times, this item took me about 12 minutes to get, although with fishing there will always be some variability due to the weather and moon phases, etc. Next up is the Amber Mosquito. This is another pet summoning item that spawns a baby dinosaur. It's obtained from putting one of the following 3 blocks in an Extractinator: silt, slush, or fossils. For silt and slush, the chance of getting an amber mosquito is 1 in 10,000 per block. For fossils, these triple the chance, at about 3 in 10,000. This increased chance, combined with the fact that fossils show up when using a spunker potion, make the choice of which block to go for pretty easy. The fastest way I think to get fossils is to create a new world and then head to the desert with a drill containment unit and a spunker potion. Doing this, I could get around 5,000 fossils in 6 minutes. To have a 50-50 shot at getting the amber mosquito, I'll need around 2,500, so 5,000 should give me a very good chance. At the Extractinator, I could extract around 1,000 a minute. Combining these gave an expected time of around 15 minutes. However, this doubles if you factor in getting the rather obscure Extractinator first. Next up are the fledgling wings. These can actually be uncommonly obtained outside of a journey mode world, and are the only pre-hard mode wings. They're obtained from floating islands, but from 2 different sources: sky chests at a 1 in 20 chance, or sky crates at a lower 1 in 50. From testing, searching for skyware chests is a faster way to obtain them. To get these as fast as possible, we're going to create a medium world, and then use our Rod of Harmony at around level 600. Doing this, I could open a chest around every 40 seconds. Factoring in time for world generation, this gave an expected time of around 25 minutes. Next, it's a eucalyptus sap. Another pet summoning item. It's a 1 in 1000 drop from shaking a tree in a forest biome. Trees are shaken by hitting them once with an axe. This can be done once per day. I could make a tree farm, although even using fertilizer, I think the fastest way to go about this is to again just make loads of new worlds. I think that was around 4 minutes. If we generated a large world, this has around 275 trees and forest biomes. It takes around 5 minutes to hit them all, and another 2 minutes for world generation. Averaging this all out gave an expected time of around half an hour. Next is the first banner on the list, and it's from the Dread Nautilus mini-boss. 10 krills are required for this one. Apparently this is a reasonably time-consuming banner to get, which I can see isn't the most common spawn in the world. In total this took about half an hour to get, helped by the fact the boss itself drops Blood Moon spawners, so there was little downtime. There are a few more banners from the Blood Moon which I think will be harder to get, but we'll see those later. This next one is a bit of an interesting one, as it isn't really a single item. Terraria has 117 different statues, 58 of which aren't craftable. These are the ones we're interested in. These can only be found underground, often, but not always, in abandoned caverns. What if you wanted to get a specific one? How long would it take you? Well, without loss of generality, we're going to search for the slime statue, as we'll need this later. We're going to be using the drill containment unit, plus Spelunker potions. A large world can contain up to around 5 of each statue variant, although, as they can be placed essentially anywhere, this could be a bit tricky. Nice, it took around 30 minutes. Okay, I got around 50 statues in 20 minutes, so this will give an expected time of about 30 minutes. Next up is a classic rare drop, the axe from Plantera. The best axe in the game, this is a 5% drop in expert mode. Plantera's bulbs not being craftable makes this one a bit tricky to grind, and how fast we can get it is essentially a function of how fast we can find bulbs. With my drill containment unit, I was finding around 40 in half an hour, plus a few seconds to reach Plantera kill, gave an expected time of around 40 minutes to get the axe. We're now headed to the Martians. The anti-gravity hook, alongside the blaster cannon and the laser drill, were all 1 in 800 drops from Martian enemies. Without loss of generality, we're going for the hook. Off the bat, I thought this would be a bit tricky, given I don't often see Martian pros, and we'll probably need quite a few to get enough kills for the hook. Being in space, however, with a water candle and a battle potion, greatly increased their spawn rates, and I found I could normally get one within about 30 seconds. I got around 180 kills per invasion, given an expected time to get the hook of around 40 minutes. Next up, we're back to Blood Moon fishing, to get the Blood Eel and Hemogoblin Shark banners. These require a steeper 25 kills to get each for their banners, resulting in a longer expected time of around 40 minutes. Next up, we're staying with fishing, as we try to get the Hardy Saddle. This is the rarest exclusive drop from the Rarest crate. Enchanted swords can be obtained elsewhere, as we'll see later. Hardy Saddle, obtained at around a 1 in 8 chance from a golden crate. At maximum fishing power, with the crate potion, I got around 12 crates in half an hour, giving an expected time of 45 minutes to get the item. The Zephyr fish also gets an honourable mention here, which is marginally more common than the Hardy Saddle. This next one is a bit questionable, but I'm going to include it anyway as it's quite interesting. The items in question are the Thunderstorm painting and also the Storm music box. These are both available only in the Thunderstorm, but how often do these occur? Well, that varies a bit, but the general answer is not very often. There's around a 1 in 20 chance each day, maybe lower. Even with the use of a bed and a sundial, there's an expected time to get one at around an hour. As we've reached the hour mark, we've come to the end of the first category. Keep watching to see me get some of the trickier items. Next is the Stellar Shoon. This is a 5% drop from the Empress of Light. A real limited factor I found with this one was catching the prismatic lace fangs. There's a relatively small window to catch them, and I found I rarely got more than 2 a night, averaging about 1.3. From the caught lace fangs, I could kill about 5 Empresses a night. Considering both of these factors, this gave an expected time of around 1 hour. Nice, there it is. Next, another banner, this time from a paladin, and also the first use of our mob farm. Using water and shadow candles, a battle potion, and an underground desert, combined with a big open space, forcing enemies to spawn in our farm, gives us pretty much the optimal spawn rates for farming enemies. For paladins, we need to make sure the spawning platform is made up of dungeon bricks, with the right dungeon wall background. From this setup, I got the banner, which is 25 kills, in about an hour. Next up are kites. Some enemies drop these on windy days, which occur about 10% of the time. Most of these drops aren't too rare, however, the 1.39% chance of a kite drop from a windy balloon stood out to me as probably the hardest to get. especially as most of the other droppers can be statue spawned. Without loss of generality, we're going for the yellow kite. We'll have to factor in waiting for a new windy day to occur when considering the expected time. Okay, so I found we can get around 30 kills every 20 minutes, and when we also factor in waiting for a windy day, this gave an expected time to get the kite at around 1 hour 15 minutes. Next up is the infamous coin gun. In updates past, this would have been a lot harder to get, but with the introduction of the pirate ship and its 2% coin gun drop rate, this item is now a lot easier to get, although it's still a bit of a grind. The strategy for the invasion is to simply maximise pirate ship kills. To do this, we'll complete the first 50% of the invasion first to allow them to spawn, and then just kill pirate ships for the next 50%, letting other enemies respawn. Done optimally, this should give 10 pirate ship kills per invasion. Getting a pirate map to spawn the invasion will also have to be factored in. This is a 1% drop from all enemies in the ocean biome. The hope is to get it from a pirate invasion itself in the first 50%, as we're going to fight the invasion in the ocean biome. If not, we'll have to head to the mob farm and get one there. Nice, there it is. There was quite a lot to factor in for the expected time here. The drop rates from the pirates in the first half, pirate ship drops, pirate map drops, during and not during the invasion. But doing the maths, it's all in all gave an expected time of around 1 hour 15 minutes. Each dungeon in Terraria contains a subset of 25 paintings. These are selected randomly, but not with equal probability, with some being less common than others. The rarest of them all is called the Guardian's Gaze, with a 1.36% chance of spawning in a painting slot. Because not every world contains this painting, and also they need to kill Skeleton to get into the dungeon, actually just trying to find this requires a bit of setup first. The fastest method I used was, first create a new world, then use my magic conch to teleport close to the dungeon, then activate the moon dial, making it night so we can fight Skeleton, and finally, entering the dungeon. I found each dungeon contained around 10 paintings, although this did seem to vary. Nice, there it is. Well, I counted for making new worlds and fighting Skeleton. This gave an expected time of around 1 hour 15 minutes. Next is the bone pickaxe and the mining helmet. These are both 1 in 20 drops from the uncommon Undead miner. For this grind we're back at the farm, but in pre-hard mode, as the Undead miner spawns more commonly here. One of the reasons I've chosen this drop over many others is a lot of rare drops can be got fairly easily from statue farming. Non-statue farmed, reasonably uncommon mobs makes it a lot trickier. Overall, the expected time to get this was around 1 hour 20 minutes. Next is another banner, and perhaps one you wouldn't expect. This is from the Angry Dandelion, which is the only Windy Day exclusive banner which requires 50 kills, outside of an event. Angry Dandelions aren't rare. The real time cost here is waiting, using a bed and a sundial for a windy day to spawn. Although, another factor to mention is, due to the way Angry Dandelions spawn tied to a block, it does make them a bit tricky to farm. As it's a bit random how long a windy day lasts for, this will add more variability to the expected time. But from a bit of testing, I got an expected time of 1 hour 45 minutes. And just to add, if you're wondering why windy day stuff seems to be coming up more than rain, it's mainly because rainy days I believe are a bit more common than windy days, up to 3 times, which makes rainy day items easier to come by than windy day ones. Next, the slime staff. This is a 1 in 10,000 drop for most slimes, which, in a way, we'll get more onto this later, is the lowest drop rate in the game. Here, we consider the expected time to get it if we have a slime statue, which is by far the best way to get one, as unlike most statues, the slime statue poses no penalty on drop rates. The expected time for this one is quite simple. We can kill around 100 slimes a minute, giving an expected time, assuming we have the slime statue, at 1 hour 40 minutes to get the staff. We'll consider the expected time to get the staff if you don't have a statue, a bit later. Next, the Uzi. This drop isn't numerically super rare, a 1% drop from angry trappers. However, they can't be statue farmed, and their spawn conditions, attaching them to a block, make them a bit tricky to farm, so we can't use our normal methods. Essentially, I couldn't really find a faster way than just flying around the jungle with a battle potion and a water candle. Doing this, I got around 1 kill a minute, giving an expected time of 1 hour 40. The Rod of Discord. This is a 1 in 500 drop from a non-statue spawned enemy, Chaos Elementals. One of the hardest drops to get in the game, although we can use our farm setup. All in all, this took around 1 hour 45 minutes. We're now back to the slime staff, but assuming we don't have a slime statue. The fastest way I think to get one is still just to find the statue, and then grind from there. As we've discussed both of these individually, we can simply add the times, giving an expected time of 2 hours 15 minutes for the slime staff from scratch. A Sand Elemental banner. This one's a bit tricky for a few reasons. Firstly, Sand Elementals only spawn in sandstorms, which are a reasonably uncommon, non-spawnable event. Secondly, 25 kills are required for this banner, which is quite a lot for an uncommon mini-boss. With the rate of kills I was getting, and accounting for potentially having to wait for a new sandstorm, this came to an expected time of around 2 hours 20 minutes. But take this time with a pinch of salt, given the variability of sandstorm duration. Next up, the dog whistle. This is a pet spawning item dropped from presents at Christmas. During Christmas, there's a 1 in 13 chance an enemy drops a present, and a further 29 in 12,000 chance that present contains a dog whistle, giving the dog whistle an effective 1 in 5,380 drop rate. And note, it won't be dropped from statue spawned enemies. To further complicate things, as it's not actually Christmas, the only way to make it so is to complete wave 15 of the frost moon, which gives one in-game day of Christmas, and hence present drops. After our first frost moon, we'll head to our farm, and then at dusk, we'll head to the surface, and use the last 9 minutes or so of Christmas to fight the frost moon, meaning we're always killing enemies when it's Christmas, and there'll be no downtime where we can't get a present. The frost moon gets us around 40 kills a minute, and we get a similar rate from the farm. Nice. That took a while. Okay, the expected time was 2 hours 45 minutes. You'll see in a bit, but the Halloween equivalent was much worse. Next is the first of the golden critters, the golden grasshopper. Golden critters have a 1 in 400 chance of spawning in place of a normal critter. They can be caught with a bug net and hence count as an item. Grasshoppers are a bit different in their spawning from other critters though. They have a 1 in 50 chance of spawning when long grass is broken, or 1 in 100 for shorter grass, giving an effective 1 in 20,000 or 40,000 chance of getting them per grass break, respectively. And one method would be to masquerade worlds and break grass. But from testing, I think I found a faster way. Flower seeds can be brought en masse from the dryad and then placed and broken in a planter pot. These count as small grass, but it's fast and most importantly, consistent method of getting grasshoppers. I could break around 210 a minute, giving an expected time of getting a golden grasshopper at around 3 hours. Now, as I don't want to spam the list with golden critters, I'm going to include a few more, which should be around 3 hours as well. The first is the golden bunny. Bunnies are the most common of the forest critters, and like most, their spawn rate is greatly increased with nearby NPCs. The next is the golden butterfly. Whilst butterflies don't spawn every day, it's either butterflies or stink bugs. When they do spawn, they spawn in pretty high quantities. It's a similar story for dragonflies, which, as long as you have some cattails, spawn pretty frequently. Frogs also belong in this tier, which are a pretty common spawn in the jungle biome. Golden worms don't make the list, as they can be got from a can of worms. Next up, we're back to the Undead Miner, this time for his banner, which are usually for a slightly uncommon enemy, takes 50 kills. I used the standard farm, in pre-hard mode again. It's took an expected time of around 3 hours. This is a bit of a tricky one. It's a universal pylon, which is a pylon which can be placed anywhere. It can be bought from the zoologist when the bestiary is 100% completed. This is no easy feat though, and would take ages starting from scratch. So we're not. As our starting point for all other items is the end game. I'm doing the same kind of thing for the bestiary. To complete the game, you obviously have to encounter some monsters. How much is the average for the end game is? A bit up in the air. I've got 75% done on this account. I feel it's fairly standard, so I'm going to go from that. One thing to mention is, you only need to see one golden critter to get all golden critters filled in. Anyway, let's complete this bestiary. Okay, so it took me about 3 hours in total. I'm going to just set that as the expected time. Again, due to the variability of runs getting to the end game, this is a bit of a hard one to state with much precision, but I've given it a shot. If we were to start from scratch though, like I guess I've done with banners, yeah, this would have taken a lot longer. Maybe would have even been the rarest. Next, the Ice Golem banner. One of the hardest banners to get. I was surprised by how little this enemy spawns. The Ice Golem is a rare enemy, which spawns in snow biomes, and only when it's a blizzard, i.e. raining hard. Rain happens on around 20% of days, so as with other items tied to events, we'll have to factor this in. Given the rate of kills I was getting, the expected time for this came to 3 hours. I did think of maybe trying to build some farm to speed it up, but I couldn't really think of anything. Given how big the golem is, it would be quite tricky. Next, another banner. This time from the giant worm. This is another one that doesn't have a statue and can't really be farmed effectively, given how it spawns. Easiest found in pre-hard mode, in the underground lair. This was a real pain to get. All in all, the expected time came to about 4 hours. Honourable mentions off this are the Bone Serpent banner, plus the Crimson Axe, Enchanted Sword, and Cursed Hammer banners. I didn't find these as hard to get, but again, their spawn conditions just make them a bit tricky to farm. This one was quite a fun one, the Terragrim. Terragrims are found in sword shrines, which are rare in themselves. Only an average of 1.7 generate within a large world. On top of this, the Terragrim only has a 1 in 50 chance of spawning. Making things harder, shrines do not show up with a Spunker Potion. These alone make getting this a daunting task. There are a few things however that are in our favour. The shrines usually spawn around the surface, or at least not too far into the underground, and they also only spawn in the outer regions of the world. After some testing, I found the fastest way to find these was to generate a small world and just check up to around the dungeon, or around the jungle on each side of the world. With this, I was getting around 6 every half hour, giving a rough expected time of 4 hours and 15 minutes. Like the coin gun, this is another classic rare item that often springs to mind. I've even made a video about it. The Nymph is a seldom seen rare enemy that spawns in the cave empire. Even so, her banner requires 25 kills. Adding to the difficulty, as the Nymph spawns as a lost girl NPC, they won't naturally aggro on you, meaning our standard cave and farm doesn't work that well, making the process a bit harder. Also to note, this should be done in pre-hard mode, given the increased spawn rate. All in all, this took 4.5 hours. Next up is a golden seahorse. Even just a standard seahorses are fairly uncommon to see. They spawn underwater in ocean biomes. However, there are more than a few tricks we can use to greatly increase their spawn rates. Firstly, we can move some NPCs to the ocean biome. These reduce monster spawn rates, letting more critters spawn. Secondly, we can do this fully AFK. Building a minecart track over water allows us to catch the seahorses as we go back and forth. As seahorses spawn under the water, we can also set up dart traps to kill monsters which spawn on or around the water. Like the NPCs, this should again free up spawning space. However, even with all this, it still took a while. The expected time I got was around 5.5 hours. I'm also going to quickly add on a few of the other golden critters. The golden bird and squirrel, both fairly common forest biome critters, but not quite as common as the bunny. Both took around the same time frame to get. Also the goldfish, which spawns in most bodies of water, was of a similar rarity, perhaps a bit less than the seahorse. And finally, ladybugs. Although these only spawn on windy days, when it is a windy day, lots spawn. I found using the standard battle potion and water candles, I could get one on most windy days, which again put their expected time around the 4, 5, 6 hours mark. This is a very similar one to the dog whistle, except it's a lot harder. Goodie bags are dropped by most enemies at Halloween at a rate of 1 in 80, much lower than the present's generous 1 in 13. The bat hook and the marginally less rare unlucky yarn are around a 1 in 150 drop from goodie bags, giving the bat hook an effective 1 in 12,000 drop rate from enemies killed during Halloween, lower than the slime staffs. As with the frost moon, we're going to be using the same method of completing the pumpkin moon from dusk onwards, then heading to the farm until it's light again. Doing this again means there's no downtime where we can't get goodie bags. That was the first grind that felt properly brutal. The rates I could get kills are similar to the frost moon, so factoring these in again gave an expected time of around 6 hours for the bat hook. Next, the golden mouse. This one's particularly tricky, as unlike most critters, nearby NPCs do not increase its relative spawn chances, and due to the nature of how it spawns, there's not too many tricks we can really employ to get it faster. We'll use a guide to critter companionship, so we can get rid of enemies without getting the mice themselves. All in all, the expected time for this came to 6.5 hours. Next, we're heading to fishing, specifically fishing quests. Out of all the quest rewards from the angler, the rarest is the hotline fishing hook, at a 1% chance per quest, and in hard mode only, and only after 25 quests have been completed. The bottomless honey bucket and the honey absorbent sponge have a lower effective drop rate, but only in pre-hard mode, where it's also much easier to farm quests. As we've done with combat, I also have an endgame, so to say, fishing loadout. This will be our starting point. I'll be using a bed, sun and moon dials, plus a pylon network, connected to lakes and all biomes, to get through quests as fast as possible. I could do around 16-17 quests an hour, with an expected time at around the 6 hour mark. Before we move on, there are a few honourable mentions in the fishing quests category. I haven't included them all on the main list, as not to spam it. The fin wings, at a 1 in 70 chance in hard mode, probably coming second in terms of difficulty. And again, the honey absorbent sponge and the bottomless honey bucket are reasonably hard to get, given they require a bumblebee tuna quest, which in itself is around a 1 in 50 chance. I've had a bit of trouble getting this in the past. And finally, the golden bug net and vanity sets at a 1 in 80 chance, but importantly these can be obtained in pre-hard mode. Next, the golden water strider. This is such a pain to get, mostly due to the excessive conditions required for one to spawn. A water strider requires it to be daytime, on the surface, in a body of water, next to jungle grass or sand, with a wind speed less than 20 miles an hour, and for it not to be raining. Assuming we have the right setup, this still rules out well over half the Terrarian day. However, using a bed and a sundial, we can skip or speed up periods of night, rain, and wind to maximise spawn times. Using this, I'm building the farm just above the surface, but still technically in the surface layer, and having as few as possible non-submerged blocks helps prevent most competing spawns. The main problem with the arapaimers, I tried traps, but in the end the best way to deal with them was just to go at them manually. They're a problem, as they ended up killing a lot of the water striders before I could get to them. All in all, I could get around 80 an hour, giving an expected time of 7 hours. This one's a little bit complicated. In hard mode, expert and master mode, every hard mode boss, apart from the queen slime, has a 1 in 16 chance to contain one of 18 developer sets. So without loss of generality, if we're aiming to get a specific one, there's an effective 1 in 288 chance for a hard mode boss to drop it. Here, we're aiming for Chrono's set. As we can kill most hard mode bosses in a few seconds, this grind pretty much becomes a search for the fastest boss spawner we can obtain. Just going through the list, Moonlord's an obvious no. Empress, we've established lace rings take a while to accumulate. Plantera Plantera, again with the way her bulbs spawn, is not the best for quick fights. Fishron could be a bit better, although I still find the truffle worm spawns not to be the most consistent. He's also not the fastest to spawn. This leaves the mechs and golem. Of the mechs, the destroyer looks the best. Iron bars can be obtained by shimmering anvils, and swords of light and rotten chunks are quite easy to farm. The main drawback though is it requires 6 of each. This then leaves golem. He's fast to spawn, easy to kill, and is surrounded by enemies that drop his spawner, albeit at a fairly low rate, 1 in 100. But from testing, I think this is the fastest boss to spawn and kill. Okay, I've got around 100 cells in 160 minutes. I can kill more lizards whilst fighting golem as well, giving another 1 in every 10 minutes or so. This, combined with killing 80 golems in half an hour, gave an expected time of around 8 hours. The next item on our list is relatively simple to obtain. You just buy it from an NPC. The NPC in question is a travelling merchant, who has a 22% chance to visit the world per day, and will sell 4 to 12 randomly chosen items from a pool of around 100. These items aren't chosen equally, however. They are conveniently separated into 6 categories, with around 30 items classed as common, 10 as uncommon, 30 as rare, 20 as very rare, 5 is extremely rare, and 1 extraordinarily rare. As mentioned, Travelling Merchant sells 4 to 12 items per visit. In Classic mode, with no Peddler's Satchel, the average item sold is 5.47. In Expert, with the Peddler's Satchel, this rises to 7.37. As more slots increases the likelihood for our rare item, we're maxing them out, along with our luck. The expected time seems simple then. We just need to find the rate at which the Travelling Merchant sells the 1 item in the extraordinarily rare category, which is the Angel Halo by the way, and then work out the expected time to get it given that. Except it's not quite that simple. Firstly, due to all the variables at play, it's very hard to give a concrete estimate for the chance the Travelling Merchant will sell a certain item. And secondly, some suggest that items from lesser rarities are actually the true rarest item, due to some quirks in how items are selected. Now, with these variables and unanswered questions at play, I decided to do the sensible thing, and manually simulate thousands of Travelling Merchant visits with optimal or close to conditions, to get a rough estimate of the Halo's rarity. From my simulations, I found the Angel Halo to appear markedly less than the other items in the next 2 categories, at around a 5% chance per visit. So this means it's the rarest, right? Well, whilst trying to get an answer to this, I came across an old forum post of someone who claimed to have simulated 1 million Travelling Merchant visits. He'd found the same as me, that the Angel Halo was in fact the rarest, but only just. And curiously, it was second to the white team block, an item from the common category. I think the reason for this is, the team blocks are the only items which can't appear more than once, i.e. only 1 colour of team block can appear per visit. Anyway, since the post, the Travelling Merchant has had quite a few items added. My thinking is, could these additional items have tipped the balance and made the team blocks the rarest? To find out, I did some more simulations. From another 1,000 or so, I actually didn't find a significant difference between the rates of the Halo compared to the rates for each individual block, making, without loss of generality, the blue team block one of the hardest items time-wise to get in the game. Anyway, the Halo's 5% chance per visit, giving an effective 1% chance to get it per day, which with the use of a bed and a sundial, gives it an expected time of around 8 hours. Underground caverns generated in the world have a chance to contain paintings on the walls. There are 32 possible ones which can spawn. Of these 32, one has intentionally been made much rarer to spawn, the Waldo painting. This has a 0.16% chance to be rolled as a painting in an underground cavern. Now apart from areas which have their own unique painting pools, like the underground desert and the dungeon, caverns with this painting can spawn pretty much anywhere in the world. All in all, in a large world, about 150 underground caverns spawn, although some of these will be in the desert, so won't contain a Waldo painting. With the drill containment unit and the Splunker push, I found I could get around 60 paintings an hour, or 1 a minute. Few of the other items high up on this list are quite AFKable. This one very much wasn't, which added to the difficulty of getting it. Nice, eventually. That took a while. I think I've got every other possible painting pretty much 10 times over. With the rate I was finding paintings, this gave an expected time of around 10.5 hours. And that's it. The rarest item in the game is probably the Waldo painting, but with the team block not too far behind. Thank you very much for watching.